Well, between them, Felicity Urquhart and Josh Cunningham have so many Golden Guitar and ARIA awards. I think I actually stopped counting when I was reading the bio, because who needs to count when there are that many? Together, they have 4 Golden Guitar nominations with their very first album as a duo. Felicity and Josh, hello.
Oh, hello, Sophie.
Hey, Sophie, how you going?
I'm very pleased to be speaking to you both, because I love this album so much, and did review it at the time it came out to that effect. But I actually want to start by asking about those Golden Guitar nominations, because it must have been so gratifying for this first time as a joint project to have that recognition.
Well, it certainly was for me. I'm sure it was for Fliss too, but she's experienced it quite a few times in her life, as you alluded to. For me, it was a first, so yeah, I was over the moon.
And Felicity, for you, was it just like, oh, yeah, 4 more, whatever?
Not at all. Look, those Golden Guitars are very hard to come by, and to get nominations for the Golden Guitars. But prior to that, we were nominated for an ARIA. And
that's right.
We were actually laying bricks at the time, and we stopped to watch the live feed, about where are the noms. And I'm sure there was a trowel in one hand that Josh had and a brick, and I thought he was going to drop it on his toes when that announcement came through, because we were very unexpected to be in, a pool of 5 albums that for the year, and then to get the noms for the Golden Guitars, exactly the same appreciation and feeling of acceptance of what we're doing.
Well, it might have been unexpected for you, but to the casual observer, it was not a surprise, I've got to say. But I often wonder, in a situation like this, where you've created this piece of work, a piece of art, and it starts off as songs, and you take it through that production process and you release it out into the world, and then it's out there and you don't know how people will respond. Is it sometimes strange to think, oh, wow, people have not only responded to this, but they've nominated it. It's like, has this whole life without us now? If that makes sense. Oh, you've frozen.
About, writing songs and releasing.
Oh. I think we both froze. I'll edit this out. So if you're, I'll end that question again by saying, is it strange to think that it has a life out there without you, and that there are people assessing it and putting it into awards like this?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most incredible things about writing songs, is that you write them in a very personal place, and then you release it out into the world, and it means lots of different things to lots of different people. One of my favorite things is hearing the stories back from people. Often you'll hear stories of, individuals that have gone through really dark times, and they literally tell you that if it wasn't for that particular song, I don't know that I would have made it. And, and then on the other hand, people might, I had the best year of my life backpacking around Europe, and your album was on repeat the whole way. It was like the soundtrack to the best year of my life. So it's a pretty humbling thing to think that just a little song that you wrote can actually mean something so significant to people.
Yeah. Now, this album is called The Song Club, and there is a song club run by Sam Hawksley, Australian musician based in Nashville. And this song club has been referenced when I was at Tamworth this year. So many artists like, I was in a song club. But of course, you two are the most famous example of this, because you named your album after it. So
we got in early, yeah.
So I thought I'd ask you each separately why you decided to join the Song Club. So Josh, starting with you, what was the impetus to do this?
Well, I think I was actually depending on your perspective, the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the wrong time. But I was actually visiting Fliss. I was at her place, and Sam happened to be out for the festival, and he always stops by to visit as well when he's around. And he was he was planning on asking Fliss, obviously, but I just happened to be here, and I think he might have felt obliged to include me in it as well.
He was really, I was totally going to ask Josh too. And I said, yeah, ask him. And I did say, I don't think you'll have any luck, because I knew that, that wasn't sort of how you would usually write. Well, no one usually writes to a prompt. There's nothing usual with a deadline. And but it was something new for all of us. We've been involved I certainly have been involved with workshop programs. A great one run at the DAG Sheep Station, where we go and write songs with people and share that community space. But we come up with ideas, or people have songs they want to work on, and where this whole concept is totally different. You send your lyrics in and the audio track, and no one's judging you or critiquing it. We're just at this community of of trying to encourage each other more than anything. And it's your own, you do it for yourself. And it was really about that achieving. For me, that's how I felt. I really want to be able to deliver a song and homeschool the kids and, you know, work in radio that I was doing at that time. So there was a lot of balls juggling in my world back then, but it was a good experience.
Well, and also the timing seemed to be, if I'm correct, it started not long before global lockdown. And then so there are a whole lot of musicians who are at home, couldn't perform, but that sort of schedule or that deadline probably helped keep them engaged with what they were doing. And I mean, I know it was an incredibly despairing time for musicians, but perhaps it was something to focus on.
Yeah, it was a real godsend. I know, not just the creative, you know, keeping the creative thing going during that time when, you know, live music was taken away from us, but one of the best things that I appreciated about it was the sense of community, because, you know, we were basically stuck at home, and, you know, it's not like being, you know, in torture, being stuck at home with Felicity and the girls. Like, it's pretty sweet anyway, but, you know, you're not getting a lot of outside interaction. And once a week, there'd be all these emails back and forth and hearing people's songs and all this interaction based on that. And it really felt like I was part of a community, even though I was locked away from the world at large.
So that was an individual songwriting challenge by the sound of it. And but of course you have written songs together since. So how did that joint or that co-writing process start?
Well, that's where I guess more, what am I trying to say? More fireworks started to Where am I going here, Sophie?
A spark will do it. We can say spark, yeah.
Spark. And, you know, when you find a kindred spirit that loves banjos like you do, acoustic instruments, songs, but then you start talking about, you'll go off on a tangent and find other elements about a person, and find that you feel very natural just being a goofball yourself and sharing a cup of tea, and things really are very natural with the pair of us. I don't feel like I can't be myself, and I think that's the real secret to life, isn't it? That you need to be yourself wherever you are. And we try to tell the girls that you've got to be yourself, a genuine person, and don't put on some fake thing when you're out in front of people, because that's a personality you need to create. You need to be you, because that's good enough.
Yeah. And I think on the album, you can certainly hear that regard you have for each other, and also that push and pull in a good sense. Yeah. That knowledge of when to step back in the song, when to let the other come forward, play to your strengths, which is something I imagine you developed in that time, even though it was a short period of getting to know each other before you recorded.
Yeah, it almost feels like it didn't take much developing. It was just a very natural thing. You know, as soon as we started playing music together, we had an instant musical rapport, and, you know, obviously spending time, there was a personal connection there as well. So everything's felt like it's just meant to be.
Well, 30 years with the Waifs, and, you know, being around such great female singers like Vicky and Donna. I mean, Josh certainly knows how to give a vocalist space, but it was also nice to push Josh more and get him singing and showing that side of him that, you know, he sings with the Waifs, but not as much as the girls do. So it's been nice on our project that you're on every song. We sing it all together.
Yeah. So yes, as Felicity said, Josh, you're a long-time collaborator in the Waifs, and Felicity, you're a well-known collaborator, not just the DAG Sheep Station songs, but of course Bennett Bowtell and Urquhart. Yeah. I'm wondering if there's anything you two had to unlearn about the collaborations you'd had in order to collaborate with each other.
Unlearn.
To unlearn from our previous...
Yeah, maybe things like, I was in the habit of doing XYZ with that person or that group, and this is a different thing, and I need to not apply the same principles.
I think
maybe not.
It helped me. It only helped my ability to get into the studio as far as finding harmony spots, working with Lynn and Kevin. That certainly has lifted my ability in those areas to find it, to navigate around a harmony, or go, hey, there's no rules. You can sing a lead part, we can sing a bit together, or let's jump on it, let's make a harmony there. So that sensibility has certainly come from Lynn, I would say mostly. Lenny would always be the queen of finding harmonies, but then KB would say, well, let's sing a part together, and certainly that helped, I think.
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't done a lot of harmony singing, you know, previously. And it was interesting because Felicity's so great at it. And I was expecting that she might just be saying, oh, well, here's the part that you would sing. But she kind of left it in a lot of instances up to me. Just, oh, what do you hear? What sounds natural? And so that really helped me to develop that part of what I'm now doing. And she seemed to think that I was coming up with some interesting, unusual, like, because it's not the conventional, harmony singer approach. I was coming up with something out of my own ear, and she seemed to be pretty keen on it.
Okay, what was that you just did? Do that again, whatever that was. Do that, and I'll sing around. We'll work it out, So it's really exciting. He's got great melodies.
Well, and I think one of the things, Felicity, that anyone who's followed your career knows is that you're not just a great singer, you're a great musician. And Josh, you too, the amount of instruments you both play. So the level of knowledge you both have about how to put a song together, just to hear things and bring them out. So I guess this is a long-winded way of me saying next time you record an album, please put some cameras in the studio so that your fans can actually see the process, because I think that would be fascinating.
The most fascinating part for my experience of our week that we just got in and did it was when the door would open and the kids would come in with lunch and checking out what we're doing, go, oh yeah, that doesn't sound too bad. The kids will just tell you as it is, but also feeding us food and a part of the process. But it was really easy, wasn't it? Just putting microphones down and...
Yeah, well, it was. We didn't really move the microphone around. It was just that microphone sounds really good through that preamp. Yeah. And coming out of those speakers, that sounds good. Let's just go and sit in front of it and play music, and that'll be as simple as that.
Well, it works beautifully.
The dog's having a bit of a bark, and there, up you help.
Come on, up you come.
And there goes Tia.
Oh, hello, Tia, and hello, Pup.
Tia, that's Sophie. Tia, hello, Wilson.
I know that both of your daughters, Felicity, have busked in Tamworth before. Were they doing it this year as well?
They didn't do it this year. We came from Blues Fest, and their cousins usually busk with them, and their little band is called the Meadows. My sister lives in Fairy Meadow near Wollongong, so she needed a name when they were putting them down, on the council registration. So the Meadows it was, and they've been that for a few years now. They've been busking since Tia was 4 and I think Ellie was 2, and now they're 10 and 11. 11 and 9. She's turned. Oops, lucky she went back inside. 11 and 9, and they didn't busk because their cousins weren't with them.
Right.
And they just thought, oh, we'll do it. We'll come back in January, and let's hope, because we're still paying for violin lessons.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I would have thought that they kind of might have had the idea that, dividing the money amongst 2 rather than 4 is going to mean twice as much for each of us. Yeah,
that's right. They didn't cotton on to that.
Well, that they can work that out by January.
Yeah.
Having mentioned Bennett Bowtell Urquhart, Felicity, I have to say the only moment that gave me pause in seeing this album was thinking, please don't tell me this is the end of BBU.
Oh,
I hope
that's really lovely. A lot of people ask that, and a lot of people ask that about the Waifs as well. That, are you still doing Waifs and BBU? Is that still happening? And solo career? Yes. This is just another beautiful part of our journey, our life journey and musical journey. And I think how great it is that it's worked and people have liked it. So we could do this again. There's wave stuff happening and BBU things. Lynn's got a new album that's just about to come out. So no doubt you'll be on across all that. But, and I'll be catching up with KV's coming to our gig at the end of the week, and I can't wait to see him. So we're all still family, and we'll be doing something else. Just can't say when in the diary at this stage.
No, that's because you are all very busy individuals too. And I actually wanted to acknowledge that this collaboration started for you after a period of grief, which you have talked about quite publicly. This album has so many moments of joy on it. It is full of joy, and it's joyful for the listener to experience. And I think for anyone who's admired your work, that was a wonderful thing to hear. But also it's just a great piece of art. And I was wondering whether that creative process actually helped you manage grief, not work through it because it never finishes, but manage it.
Really beautifully said, actually, Sophie. It won't ever go away. It is getting on with life and choosing what to do with your life as well. I think having the army of love that came to our side was immensely important, and acknowledging that and embracing that, and then talking about it. And on the album, we do talk about the joy, but we also talk about coming through hard times as well. So we don't we don't skirt around it. And in our show, we'll be open about that and say we've gone through our dark times, but we want people to know that, hey, good stuff is still out there. If you're going through tough times, just keep going and look for the sunshine, because we both did that, and look at us. We found our place, and there is more to come. And when you're young, there should be more to come, right? I mean, you don't want to just give up, especially when there's children involved. It wouldn't be right. And it has brought joy to the kids' life. We've got happy faces, and and we talk about it, and let's hope we can help other people.
Yeah. Well, yes, as you said, there is light and shade on the album, and I think it's a really mature work because of that, because it acknowledges what it's like to be alive and have lived through a certain amount of things. And I think accordingly, as a listener, my favourite song changes depending on what's going on. So I'm actually wondering, I'll direct this question to Josh, if you had a favourite song when the album was released, and if you did, has it changed since then?
I think it's a bit like asking a parent, who your favourite child is.
I'm sure that changes too.
Yeah.
Wilson?
Look, all the songs are very close to my heart. Probably two of the really special ones would be Catching a Feeling, and then the final track, A Year to Remember. The prompt came in when we were in Song Club, and it was a year to forget. And with Song Club, it's very loose. The prompt is just the launching off point. You get you started. You don't even necessarily have to mention it in the song, but obviously the inference from that prompt was, the times that we were living through were quite forgettable in a lot of respects. And but then for me, I had this kind of parallel experience going on where I was having one of the most beautiful years of my life. And I thought, well, I don't think I'll ever want to forget this year. So I twisted it around and wrote about the year to remember. And, we'd just come out of, I'm from the south coast of New South Wales, and at the beginning of that year, there were the bushfires right on my doorstep. I thought my house was going to go up in a blaze at one point. And, then obviously the pandemic came along and everything that went with that. And, I'd been through my own personal, hell as well in the years leading up to that. And it's kind of interesting that in those dark, bleak times, as Fliss says, you don't have to look too far to find something beautiful and positive to latch onto. And, in my case, I didn't have to look very far at all. It was right in front of me. And so that song's very, very close to my heart for those reasons.
And you're also holding that lovely dog. That's why I keep smiling at you.
Well, he actually, I referred to, a bit of personal upheaval. In the wake of all that, this is when this little guy came into my life. He was a bit of his name's Wilson. He's a bit of a, like the ball in the Tom Hanks movie, keeps me sane and stopped me from going crazy, kept me company. So, And
then he met us, and then,
and now the family's complete.
Yeah. Well, he has a great face, that Wilson. I can see why you latched onto him, as if not the other way around. So, of course, these songs are now out on the road with you two. You are taking them to audiences. Is it weird seeing people to play to after all this time?
Oh, lovely. It's just really special. It was weird.
There was a few masked gigs.
Moments of different
that was
gigs.
Weird.
That was weird, because you can't tell if they really like it or not.
Yeah.
When they clap, you could, but the expression, the eyes and the mouth, there's so much expression there. And now just having people come up and telling us their own stories, and telling us when they caught up with us last at a Waifs gig 20 years ago, or when I was a kid busking, or like these people just love to have connection. Yeah. And we love it too. And so it's really special. I feel like I've got my head and my belly back in the right spot. The feelings are all connected right again when I'm out playing. And you talked about, did it help with the grief, getting these songs out and playing? But Josh has been incredibly important in all of that, actually just loving us for who we are and being a wonderful support, and also just lifting us up with whatever it is that we're doing. Like, it's really important to have people in your life that appreciate you. I think that's very important, and to tell people that is important too.
Yeah, and as you said, someone to take you as you are, like to not expect that there's a mask or a performance going on. And I think part of what both of your music jointly, separately, has meant to people is feeling that they can be seen, if that makes sense. Like because the music is coming from an authentic person in an authentic way in an authentic place, and that's when it really resonates in the heart for the listener.
Yeah.
Well, we all have common experiences as human beings, don't we? You know, like if we're singing about something that we're going through, then, you know, most people have been through something, if not the same, then very similar. So if you're keeping your music real, if you're writing from a real place, then it's going to strike a chord with most people.
Yeah.
On that level.
But it's also why the masks, I think, are tricky when you perform, is because, of course, you want to make that connection and see what's going on. And it's part of that energetic return that happens in performance, where it's like, well, we're putting out, we get a bit back, and that helps us continue. And to have nothing coming back apart from eyebrows would have been tricky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's been a huge obstacle, not just in that context of doing gigs, but just in society at large. It's been a very unhealthy thing. You know, and there's untold effects of that will probably be seen over the coming years with children that have grown up with that being the normal. You know, I mean, hopefully it's done some good. Hopefully, you know, whatever good it's done has outweighed the disadvantages of it, but it's sure nice to be free from that now. You know? Yeah. Oh,
I don't, look, I am not a short-tempered person, but there were several masked moments where I got very short-tempered. I thought, this is not great. But in terms of those unmasked audiences that you're seeing, you're playing at the moment quite a few destinations around New South Wales, and you're based in New South Wales and you have school-aged children, so that makes sense that you're sticking relatively close to home. I'm wondering how you picked those destinations within this state.
Well, that was originally the tour dates were coming in, our agents going, okay, guys, we need to actually look at, if border restrictions happen again, what can we contain? So we thought, let's start local. And I thought that was a pretty smart idea. So there are other things that we're heading to WA later in the year. And, you know, that's all opened back up, and thank goodness.
And we've been to Victoria and South Australia already in the last month or so.
Yeah.
But so we're getting out and about there, but this is a bit of a season to stay close to home.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can bring the girls a bit more often. I keep saying that their education is suffering because they're just spending all their time in school. They need to be out on the road coming to some gigs to complete their education.
Well, apart from which, there is a Tamworth Country Music Festival in January for them to prepare for. And if you can, you know, get them up on stage, do a few harmonies, then they have a good chance in that busking competition.
Oh, that's right. We could utilise them as well. Get them involved more.
Well, they certainly are very good on the merch desk too. They can do a good hustle there.
Yeah.
Business is always better when Tia's at the merch desk.
Yeah, she does. She can operate a square reader very quick.
Love it. And I often think, you know, the McLean wants to have a few children. You have to look. I'm just some kind of child supergroup down the line. Just putting it out there.
There's a whole crop of young kids, the next generation, from all our mates. So there's plenty of great talent on the go that's coming out.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask you one last question, because I just realised I've had you talking for quite a while, and that is, you have now set the bar extremely high with this first album. You've had ARIA nomination, 4 Golden Guitar nominations. Looking ahead to the next album, you're thinking, gee, how are we going to top that?
All downhill from here.
No, Grammys next.
Yeah.
Well, maybe next time we might take out one of those awards.
We've
been nominated, which is great. But look, I think as long as, you know, when the time comes to make another album, I think we'll have a good batch of songs that are from the heart, and wherever that place they come from, they'll be genuine and authentic. And, you know, if they strike the same kind of chord, then that'll be a great thing. But as long as we're true to ourselves, then
we'll keep doing it.
We'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what your fans expect in a great way, and certainly as a fan, I love it, and I love the album. So I hope to see you on the road sometime. I'm sure there'll be many, many fans without masks who come to see you.
Yay! Thanks so much, Sophie.
Thank you very much.
Sophie. It's been lovely chatting.
Lovely to chat to you.
Really lovely.
Bye.